Your defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, is up for a number of head coaches, and I think he's going to get one of them in this particular cycle. What can you say about him that has impressed you and what you've learned from him?
Yeah, I mean, I say this a decent amount. Everything that is said about Dan, as far as leadership and culture and development and all those great things, it's him and AG in my mind are two of the best I've been around, and they're on the same level. And I think, like you said, he's ready for a head coaching job. I know he wants it, and I've seen him develop just as a coordinator and a coach, and it's cool to be a part of. And I think that he's one of the best teachers that I've been around as far as defensive football too.
You said they're on the same level, though.
hmm
What do you mean by that?
Like I think that AG's ready to be a head coach. I think that he's has all the qualities and command and leadership and culture setting that Dan has, and he's learned from Dan, and he's developed under him, and I think that he's ready to do it.
So there you have it from Detroit Lions stud linebacker Alex Anzalone, who's been with Aaron Glenn for the majority of his career here. And yeah, the captain, he says that Aaron Glenn is on that same level as Dan Campbell. And that point, Easy, you said it earlier, like that leader of men aspect. You get it every time you watch an Aaron Glenn press conference or an Aaron Glenn post game or whatever.
Sitting up a little bit more straight.
You could tell.
Start sucking in your gut a little bit.
This guy is built to command an NFL locker room. He truly is. And he's going to next year. Whether it be New Orleans or New York, I got a feeling it's going to be New Orleans. But whether it's either one of those opportunities, Aaron Glenn's going to be a head coach next year. And you got the guy who knows him best out of probably any player in the National Football League telling you that, yes, it's going to happen.
Guy who's watched the maturation. He saw it happen from New Orleans to here in Detroit. And I always talk about that time. We locked eyes and touched hands over the same pizza. Or Aleem McNeil. And I happened to ask him, because that's when the things were like down about Aaron Glenn. That's when people were talking bad on AG, and I had to defend the Glenn. And I just so happened to meet Aleem McNeil. And this is actually a true story, outside of us locking eyes and touching hands over the pizza, whatever not. But I was like, hey, what do you like? What's the deal with Aaron Glenn? Like, I asked him all kinds of questions, and he looked at me dead in the face. He said, AG's a genius, man. Like, the stuff he's teaching us week by week, helping us learn the game of football, helping us learn, like, these philosophies around the game of football. And I think this is one of the telling moments then. And Aleem McNeil was kind of young and impressionable, I guess, first year in the league at that point. And, of course, you probably get that feeling from your first NFL head coach or NFL defensive coordinator. But then you also have Anzalone, who's been with AG before he was a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Saying these same things. Putting him on par with Dan Campbell. We know how we feel about Dan Campbell. It's the very same situation. Like, you see him on TV, he commands your attention, you're all in, you're locked in, you're bought into whatever he's got to say that day. Aaron Glenn's the same caliber.
I think Aaron Glenn will be a better head coach than Ben Johnson. I think when it's all said and done, Aaron Glenn, I think you look at kind of the Dan Campbell blueprint, and Aaron Glenn has that same blueprint, as well as being an insanely good defensive mind. So you get him a freak play caller, you get him a Ben Johnson of his own, and that could be a very formidable team when you look at the coaching staff at the very least. Aaron Glenn commands respect wherever he goes because he did it as a player, he's done it as a coach. Like this is a guy that commands respect from all the players in the locker room. He has a play style and play design and passion that players love and gravitate towards. The violence, the aggression, the attack. He puts it on them. He's going to play man coverage and get to the quarterback. Like, players love playing that style of football. It is attack, aggressive, angry football. And I'm going to miss Aaron Glenn for sure. I think this defense is going to miss Aaron Glenn. I think this city is going to miss Aaron Glenn. And he was taken for granted for a while. House Patience, defend the Glenn.
Yeah.
Started on this show.
Shout out.
And it's looking like I keep thinking everything in me just says he's going to be the New Orleans head coach next year. It just makes too much sense. But New York, the Jets also would make a lot of sense.
For his sake, I hope it's
New Orleans. Yeah.
Who do you think he takes with him?
I think
if Kelvin Shepard has become our DC, could he become Aaron Glenn's DC?
Yes, 100%.
Deshae Townsend? Like who does he take?
I think he would take Kelvin Shepard if Kelvin Shepard is not promoted to DC of the Lions. But I think Kelvin Shepard is going to be. Corey Woods, shout out, put out a great piece about Kelvin Shepard pretty much being like the heir apparent. Like Aaron Glenn's been mentoring him, he's been tutoring him, he's been like Kelvin Shepard is more than likely going to be the defensive coordinator after Aaron Glenn per Corey Woods. So shout out to him. It was a great post if you want to go read it. I think it's on his Facebook. So we'll see. But yeah, shout out to Aaron Glenn, man. I wish him the best. Still got a job to do here though, and he knows that. His team knows that. You know, this is it's stuff for us to talk about because we're not day in, day out worried about how to beat the Washington Commanders and what they got to do. Aaron Glenn doesn't give a shit about the Saints right now. Aaron Glenn doesn't give a shit about head coaching right now. He cares about winning the Super Bowl with the Detroit Lions.
Chase, who do you think AG takes with him?
I'm kind of in that Dan Campbell mindset, like when it comes to like AG and Ben Johnson, where it's like I understand the reality of the situation, but at the same time, like I don't really want to think about that. I'd rather just keep my head in the sand and like focus on the Super Bowl, which is the ultimate goal right now in front of us. Like, I mean, they are very good at what they do, and I know they are getting looked at. I'm just trying to put that outside of my mind at the moment, just personally, just because it's like, you know, if this is our last run with them, I want to enjoy it, and I don't want to be thinking about them halfway out the door already, you know, theoretically, if that's the case. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What?
Just check your messages.
Text messages?
Chris, how do you feel about Aaron Glenn? You think he's as good as gone?
Yeah, I think so, and I do think that the Jets, from what I've heard, they're kind of making a push there. So I'm looking at the Jets as more of a real threat maybe than you, but yeah, he's probably the one I'm more confident leaving than Ben Johnson. And like we talked about, you know, to me, it's not necessarily I'm scared of losing these guys as good as these coordinators are. It's more so I'm scared of also the pieces they're taking with us, because I believe that this regime has been preparing for this for years. So I think they're
so deep.
ready.
It's not only the players, the roster that this Lions team
It's
is
the
deep.
staff.
It's the staff. It's the coaches. It's these assistants. Like there are plenty of capable bodies that are going to step up. Maybe not going to be Aaron Glenn, but they're more than capable of stepping up and taking over this defense.
Who do you think poaches us harder when they leave? Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson?
I don't think either of them will hit us too hard.
I think Ben hits hard. I think Ben takes Hank with him.
I mean, yeah, they'll probably each take one guy.
And I think half the reason Frank is here is because of Hank. Because remember, there was conversations he might retire.
Retiring, yeah.
Yeah, and they were talking about if he's leaving. I remember Frank actually saying, like, if Hank is half the reason I'm here.
Ben Johnson is notoriously known for stealing things, so let's.
He is known for stealing.